Goku and go on from Dragon Ball Z, and you're listening to the Monsters with Attitude podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, embrace the attitude! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Raw Attitude on the Monsters with Attitude YouTube channel. Joining me, as always, my brother from another mother, this way, Eric Stolp. How are you, buddy?
I am good, man. I am good. Yeah, this is going to be a very fun episode, a very nostalgic down memory lane. We've been obviously talking with our guests backstage, and I am really excited for this one. This one's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Eric, I am literally like a kid in a candy store. Yeah. These are the toys of our childhood. I'm like, my palms are sweaty. I'm so excited. I have like underarm sweat. Like, I'm super excited. So
absolutely.
Let's get into it. Let's bring our guests on. First off, I just want to say that we are talking about Trendmasters and two employees that work there. And for those of you that don't know, I actually wrote a little something here. Trendmasters was an American toy company based out of St. Louis, Missouri, and was most notable for its figures based on the Godzilla series. Trendmasters' other lines include War Planets, Shadow Raiders, Independence Day, and many others. Trendmasters is remembered for its success and innovation with its products, having become one of the most purchased items for resale on eBay and Amazon when it comes to vintage toys. And joining us tonight are two former employees of Trendmasters, who during their time helped design and create many of our favorite toys from our childhood. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guests, Jeff and Stephanie Bergeron.
Hey.
Thanks for having welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm like I was saying, I'm like sweating. I'm nervous. I'm like a little kid. I'm like so excited to talk to you guys.
Yes. That's cool. We're just normal.
Yeah,
trust me.
I don't. It's so crazy that you say that because like we try to think that way, but like to us, you guys are like a pedestal that we put you on because you've done stuff for us that impacted our lives so heavily that it means a lot that, you know, people like yourselves are willing to take the time to come and talk to us because you guys are heroes to us, honestly, because you guys brought us these products that we loved and grew up as kids, and it's just amazing.
Well, thank you. I never would have thought then.
Well, we have a bunch to get to, so I want to go ahead and just kind of get started. Could you guys tell us each how you guys got started in the toy business and then how you guys wound up at Trendmasters?
Me and two of my other friends were trying to stop fighting with our airbrushes, so we took a class at Merrimack Community College, and while we were there, John, one of them, saw a flyer on the wall advertising for artists for a toy company that was just starting up. Oh, wow. And he went and he did that for a few weeks. And I think he brought me in, and it was just a hole in the wall place called the Cordage Mill. It was a bandsaw. There was a bunch of tables. There was a bunch of other people's stuff, junk flying around. And that's how it started.
Wow.
And Jeff had been there for 5 years. We were dating. Mm-hmm. And when we were dating, we didn't get to spend, when they were working on the Godzilla line, especially, they were like spending the night and stuff just to try to get the deadlines. So I worked a job. So on the weekends, if I had time off, I would go up to their work just to see them. And one of the times I went there, his boss said they were painting protos for one of the shows. And he said, "Well, do you want to paint?" And I went, "Sure." I didn't know how to paint, but I was like, "Yeah, I'll paint." So I actually did paint a few protos for the show, which was comical to me because I am not an artist in that. But later on, when the creative reference position became open, his boss said to Jeff, "Do you think she would want this job?" And I kept telling him, "I'll sweep floors here. I don't care. I just want to work here." So that's how I got on there.
I was trying to get you in on shipping. I didn't want you driving all over, and then that spot opened up.
Yeah, I actually shop for the company, so any kind of reference they need, they'd send me out, and I'd go drive and get it.
Yep.
This is before the internet. You got to remember, you can't just look stuff up.
Yeah. Eric, I know you're going to ask a question. I don't mean to interrupt, but so Steph, can you elaborate what like creative reference? So, are you going to buy books for like pictures and or other toys?
So
like,
when I started, they already had a 2D library of books and a 3D library of toys, but neither one was organized. So when I got there, it really was a mess, and it actually took me a whole month. And I came up with a whole system of like sorting the 3D into boxes and labeling them. So like if I was out on a run, anyone could go up there and find what they needed. But yes, basically if any department, if an artist needed a book and we didn't have one already in the library, I would either go to the library and rent, check out a book, or go to a bookstore and buy a book with that kind of reference. Or if they needed, like sometimes it was funny. Like one time it would take too long to order the parts from Hong Kong, and they needed those, in the tennis shoes that when you stomp, the lights flicker and light up. Mm-hmm. They needed that for something they were working on. So I went around buying every kind of shoe with those in them that I could find. And people just would look at me like I'm crazy because, I have 50 pairs of shoes in the cart that I'm buying for these little parts, and if they could have got them from Hong Kong, it would cost them $1 or something. But I'm buying, $10 pairs of shoes to get the little part out of it.
That's funny.
Wow. Yeah. Was there any like specific book that was kind of used a lot, or like our series, or anything that you kind of remember that kind of stands out? Like, oh yeah, we use this kind of book a lot.
We use Sid Mead a lot.
Sid Mead.
Any books with Sid Mead? Yeah, we used a lot of him.
Wow.
And one of the books I remember I always had to find was the Bridge book. I don't know why. Okay. The Bridges, and there was this big, like a heavy equipment book that had all kinds of crazy, like huge tractors and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Those two, a lot of their artists used all the time for reference for stuff.
Yeah, you had to make it up at the time. You didn't have the internet to go image search back then, I remember we up 2 days because we didn't know what color an anaconda was. So
okay, yeah.
So like Toho or whoever, they didn't send you, hey, here's a picture of Godzilla that you need to do. It was, you kind of had a little bit of creative liberty.
In the beginning, we brought in a lot of our own reference, and on the very first couple of figures, there was a comic book out that we had, and I forgot who it was. We used that image all the time. And later on, when we got the other figures, Toto sent us some Bandai figures, and I believe that was it. I don't ever remember seeing any images, like pictures, that they sent us.
I bet you it was the Dark Horse comic.
That's what I was thinking.
No, it wasn't. I don't know if it was Dark Horse.
No, okay. Could have been Marvel.
Marvel?
I don't know. It was really cool, and we all used that one a lot. But we all knew what Godzilla looked like, and it was in-house designing, in-house sculpting, so the designs were really loose, and we just kind of took it from there. We knew what it looked like. But later on, it got a little more specific.
That always surprised me, too, because like getting that licensing was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I really thought they would be like really strict about Godzilla and like give us a style guide and be really, but they really weren't.
Wow.
I don't recall Toho ever saying no on something. I mean, they probably said it on management, but when I was working, like Biolante, we gave him legs. Mm-hmm. And I hated doing that. They said, that's not an action figure. He's got to have legs. And so I said, there's no way this is going to pass, So I drew him up with legs, and sure enough, I came back and they said go. I couldn't believe it. You know, I thought, wow, boy, we're going to get crucified for this. And I did at GCon. Yeah. But later, years go by, and they say, yeah, we like him with legs now for the figure. And I couldn't believe that. I thought, oh, they're going to ridicule me this until I'm dead.
So besides like the books referencing and stuff like that, like what other processes did it take to, you know, get a figure approved and stuff like that? You know, did you have to just mock up a few sculpts and everything and then approve it to Toho, and then they're like, hey, yes or no, and then they take it back? You know, what was the process in that?
Early, it went through stages. Like the first 6 figures, it was just real basic drawings, basic dimension drawings.
Okay.
And it mainly was pleasing the management at Trendmasters as far as what it would look like.
Okay. And
I don't ever remember Toho coming back and saying, no, this isn't right, or that's not right. You know, it was always getting something approved by the CEO, the art director, product manager. Beyond that, I don't know if Toho said anything about the first 6. After that, there was Veron and Bergeron and all those guys came in. Mm-hmm. The picture we had of Veron was a black and white picture about that big, and I designed it off that.
Oh wow!
That's it. You know, so
it's a fairly relatively accurate design, I would say. I mean, you did pretty good. I still haven't seen the movie. but that was it, you know. And we didn't have days to do this. This had to be done, you know. The concept Veron, it goes out tonight, you know.
Wow.
We'd do that every day. It'd go out, it'd come back with changes, go back out. That was it, you know. And I think I did do some sculpts just for the poses and things like that to show to Hong Kong where we wanted the arms and things to bend.
Okay.
But they were quick. Everything was really fast. I mean, if you've ever met anyone in a toy company and they, you know, says, hey, it's a crazy atmosphere, Trendmasters was times 10. It was fast and just crazy.
Well, and that's the other thing, because Trendmasters was so new. Like when they started up, they were just getting like open market kind of novelty stuff and then selling it. And then they started designing their own. Okay. So when they did the Godzilla line, it was like everyone who worked there, no one really knew what they were figuring it out as they went, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, making molds and all that. So as Trendmasters progressed, everything got better because they had the experience then. But back in those days, it was like
pretty medieval.
Yeah.
Everything molds and.
But literally, like that Godzilla line had to be done, and they had these deadlines. And they were spending the night there, and working as late as they could, sleeping a few hours.
Yeah, we wanted them to look right because we were fans too.
That's fascinating. Like I love these. We've had several interviews over the past few months of people like yourselves or actors and voice actors and things, and just like those little behind the scenes like nuggets of information that you don't think, like in my mind, and this is just me being naive, you have weeks or months or maybe even a year you've been planning and working out every little detail of these figures, and it's like, no, we made Varan in 6 hours. It's like that's crazy, man. Talk about a grind. That's kudos to you guys. You talked a little bit ago about the license. Do you know how the process went of getting the license from Toho at all?
At first, it was just Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a bunch of we were used to doing novelty things like stuff. And so we did like we got a whole line of novelty items. And then it expanded to where we heard we were getting, I believe it was Rodan, Mecha Ghidra, and Mecha Godzilla. I think we were working on those next. And then came it opened up into 6 figures. And after that, they sold you the license in blocks, you know, like the next license you paid for would include other characters. And I would always hope, you know, I wanted to get the Titanosaurus and things like that. Got there. Never
Jeff,
got
that is Eric's favorite Godzilla.
Oh, sorry.
His Titanosaurus. You just broke his heart in a million.
Yeah, they had.
I refused. I said, I'm not doing that.
They had one guy there that we knew licensing, and that's probably why they hired him. But he was really good at it.
But it came in blocks. You pay for one block, then that block, and that block.
And it's crazy to me, like how expensive licensing is and how that whole thing works. Like, I wasn't there during Godzilla, but other things that we had at the time, and like Disney, they try to do Disney stuff like seasonal. And it was insane because like they would draw a drawing, send it to Disney to approve. And every time you submit a drawing, you pay them money. And then if they reject stuff and say, no, this needs to change, and you send it back, you pay them again.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's nutty world. I had no clue until I worked there. And I was just like, no wonder licensed toys cost so much. Because they're paying a pretty penny to do it. So
This is Eric, I'm cutting you off again. I apologize. I just want to pull up one of our listeners is pointing out, Nathaniel is saying, you guys brought Space Godzilla to America first because we weren't able to see the movie or the Bandais or anything from Toho or from Japan. So those Godzilla wars, and sorry, Eric, I know I'm stepping on your toes with this, but this Space Godzilla, like that was to us the first time we saw the poster, the first time we saw this. That's pretty cool.
Wow. True. Same
And
here.
Robert Kennedy saying Trendmasters is where I started collecting Godzilla stuff. Same with many of us, Robert. I mean, it's a spot in many of our childhoods.
That means a lot because I do get introduced to a lot of people now that say I grew up with your stuff. You know, like because we brought Godzilla, and before us was Imperial, and of course I did that big alligator, and you know, and they thought they were going to get the license for that. And when we got it, I heard they were pretty upset. But Russell would tell us we're making history here, and we didn't believe him. You know, we just thought he meant sales wise or something. You know, so it means a lot to know that a lot of people grew up with Godzilla because of what we did, and which we had no clue of at the time. You know, but yeah, Space Godzilla. I do remember working on that.
Yeah, it was insane. Like when I first saw Space Godzilla, I was like, what the heck is this? Like I had no idea. Like they said, like the movie wasn't out. I had no idea the Heisei trilogy, the 90s movies was even going on, you know, because obviously we didn't have that. So like seeing a lot of the Godzilla War stuff like Space Godzilla and Veron and, you know, all these just weird different ones. I was like, this is amazing. It really, really is. But yeah, I still remember seeing it, and I was blown away when I first saw Space Godzilla because I was like, what? There's a Godzilla from space, and this is what he looks like?
Crystals and
yeah.
Some of those movies I still haven't seen, and we just worked on them. You know,
you're missing out because Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla is one of my all-time favorites.
Is it? Okay.
Super corny, super cheesy.
That's what I love about them.
But they're just fun, you know. That's. I mean, I know each Godzilla film has its own, you know, message or whatever. But sometimes it is nice to just go and turn off your brain and enjoy giant monsters kicking each other's ass, and that's what Space Godzilla is.
I still watch the old ones, so I like those. My favorite.
Yes,
Ghidorah,
absolutely.
Mecha Godzilla, the old ones like that.
I will say all the guys that worked on the first Godzilla line, they were all big Godzilla fans. And they all were so excited and happy to be working on
Thank God,
Godzilla.
because that really helped. Otherwise, they would have ended up looking like Spawn or something like that. So, you know.
Oh, that's funny. Eric, I'm sorry. I kept interrupting you. Get us
no worries. Sorry. No, and actually perfect segue because my next question was actually just to kind of know, were you guys Godzilla fans before getting the licensing or working for Trendmasters, or, you know, were you fans after working on the line in general? So,
well, I can speak for myself. I used to stay up until 1 a.m. because old TV, you know, Godzilla versus King Kong would come on at 1 a.m. This is in 75, 73. And I would stay up till 1 to watch them. I was a huge Godzilla fan. The Aurora Monster Kit, I had 3 of them, you know. So when we got the license, I didn't believe it because a lot of licensing would come in and leave, you know. I thought 3 Ninjas would be fine. We're great with 3 Ninjas. We don't need Godzilla.
I love 3 Ninjas.
Yeah, we had that. We thought we were big back then. When we got Godzilla, I said, "There's no way Godzilla. It's going to go to somebody else." And sure enough, we got it. And then I thought, let's not screw this up, you know. Let's do a good job on this guy. And then, of course, then come the jump ups and the slide puzzles. And
hey, now don't knock on the straw. I really like the straw.
The fun straw. That was my first thing I designed that got made.
I love that.
I love the Godzilla straw. I think he's cool. I love him.
I have that actually in my basement.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I sure do.
Paid item was fun straw. He was smacking the jet. I thought they're never going to approve it. The jet's another piece. They won't add that. And they did it.
What about you, Steph? Were you a fan prior to Trendmasters?
No, I wasn't a huge Godzilla fan when I was little, but when I met Jeff, he was a huge Godzilla fan and had been since he was a kid. So I kind of segued into Godzilla. My thing that got me into monsters was I saw King Kong when I was 7 years old on TV, and then I was just enamored with monsters. I just loved them. But I wasn't a big fan of the Godzilla movies at first. You know, when I was a kid, I was like, I liked Kong.
Yeah.
But now,
I'll forgive you for that. I'll forgive you for that stuff.
I'm a Godzilla fan now, though.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Was there anything you guys got to work on, or was there a character that you wanted to make that you guys weren't able to in your time at Trendmasters?
Godzilla wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, I did want to do Titanosaurus because I thought he was cool looking. Yeah. I'd never seen the movie back then, but I'd seen the pictures, and I thought he was pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
That, and we never got to that. And I think Smog Monster Hedorah, I think he was on the slab. The Son of Godzilla was on the slab. We had concepts for that. The spider was a Kamacuras.
Kamunga.
Kamacuras is the mantis.
Yep, mantis. Yep.
Just made a fool of myself on the web. Great.
No worries.
We wanted to do all those. You know, we wanted to do all those. But Titanosaurus was the one that I wanted to work on. Wanted to design it. So.
Is it true that you guys had Amanda you were going to work on?
But we had designs for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. I always thought, you know, I think Trendmasters Titano would have been amazing, but 2 others from the Showa era that I really thought I would have loved to have seen Trendmasters, or your take on that, would have been Gorosaurus and King Caesar. Those 2 I would have absolutely done I mean, I'm fat, I can't do a backflip, but proverbial speaking, I would have done a backflip.
I don't think they ever drew those up, but if it had trust me, had it kept going, they would have required more licensing blocks, and those would have got done. But 4 or 5 years is a pretty good run for any toy line. So it lived about as long as it did, I think.
I wasn't around then, so I can't speak to that. The only thing I can speak to, because at one time I kept telling them, you need to do Island of Misfit Toys and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Telling them to do that line of toys. But I got shot down and they did Route 66 Christmas instead. And then years later, when all that Island of Misfit Toys and Rudolph toys, and it was a gangbuster seller. I just said, see if they would have listened to me.
Oh, goodness gracious. So we were talking kind of about some of the characters that you would have liked to make and stuff like that in the future. Out of the ones that were made, what was your favorite, or maybe even the most difficult to make?
Well, my favorite was Ghidra.
Okay.
And when the original 6 figures came around, I got to pick I was the longest one there, so I got to pick first, and I said I want Ghidra. And Ray had already won Godzilla anyway with the bank, and so he got that one. But he was, I wanted him, and then you step back and you look at all these scales he's got. And it's like they're giving us 3 weeks to do this, and it was a nightmare. The scales about drove me nuts. But
I imagine.
Yeah.
I was always really sad that Doom Island Godzilla never got made, because I did really love that sculpt. I thought
the bigger one was
really
better.
neat. Yeah, the bigger one. That's what I'm
one.
talking about.
The small one is the one I helped reproduce, but the big one was really cool. And they only made one of that. They didn't even tool that one. And that was designed by Bill Bronson. And
but he was just such a neat sculpt.
Yeah.
I was really sad they never made him.
Out of, let's see, there was Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla Wars, the 98 line, and then I'm going to include Doom Island, even though it technically didn't get the mass distribution. It still kind of got out there. Out of the lines that were made, which one was your guys' favorite to work on?
Well, I have to go. Part of the first line I was sculpting, the second line I was designing. So I already told you the sculpting favorite. My design favorite, I really like doing the power up guys that had all the armor on them.
Yes.
That was a toy. That was a completely off the wall. Let's do toys, that have armor and stuff. And giving Godzilla armor is nuts. But I loved that kind of stuff. So like the flip guns and the, the Mecha Godzilla was my favorite guy to design because I had the guns on him.
Yes.
On his back.
Yes.
Put a little ship on his back and a tribute to Harryhausen with 20 million miles to Earth. Because we watched that the night before. I just like doing that. It was something you could design that wasn't dead, style guide right on. And I had a lot of fun doing that. So,
did you take any inspiration when you did those for like Dino Riders or from Dino Riders at all?
Dino Riders? I don't even know what Dino Riders is.
Oh,
I'm going to say no.
So that's a no.
Sorry.
Never mind.
This was 95, 94? Would that have been before or after Dino Riders?
Yeah, Dino Riders was actually before that.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, and basically all it was a line of dinosaurs that were basically put artillery on, like kind of what you did with the Godzilla, where they had missile backpacks and guns and people riding them and stuff like that. That kind of sense.
That might have been inspired by the management, but I never saw it. When they came up and gave it to us, that they may have seen it, and that's what made them go for that. But I never saw it. And Toho did approve that, and that was all us just blue skying, So
I have to say, the power up line is my favorite. I think
really?
That you guys did. I think so. Especially like the Mecha Godzilla, like you said, he had the giant cannons, and Godzilla has the rocket launcher and like the scope. I mean, it's just, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Those were from Ed 209.
Yeah,
that's what the 3 guns on each arm. I took that from Ed 209 from RoboCop.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was like I don't know how old I was, 8, 9-year-old kid's dream to see Godzilla, which is already the coolest thing in the world, have cannons and lasers and Rodans getting metal wings and.
Yeah, I thought we'd get some flack because, what does Godzilla need guns and armor for? But as a toy, I thought they were pretty cool. So,
absolutely. And you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong.
I'm glad they came out. That's all.
Yeah.
Usually stuff like that doesn't get made. They'll say, yeah, it's cool. Nah, we're not making that.
Yeah. It's not realistic, or it goes against the character. It doesn't make sense, kind of thing. Yeah. I get
Too many
that.
pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, we're gonna do this. Whoop.
Nope, not me.
Hey, there's things.
All right. So so you were nice enough to send us some kind of behind the scenes pictures of some of the processing and stuff like that. We just kind of wanted to go over them with you guys, maybe discuss and tell us what's kind of going on during this process, and just kind of a flashback and down memory lane.
Sorry about the quality, but back then that was video cameras. Right? That's a VHS video grabs right there. All right. We didn't have enough camera back then. Like Godzilla on the left, that is Ray's wind-up walker.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Because I love filming stuff, and in the shop we were pretty nutty, crazy, and a little irreverent. There was always something to film, so I filmed every day, and I'd film what people were working on. That guy, I just took it off Ray's desk and said, "I'm filming your walker real quick." That's when he was doing that, and he got to work on it all in pieces, one piece, so he was happy with that. On the right, that is Fred Meyer's area when he was sculpting the bendable.
Oh, okay.
In fact, that little sheet you see is his concept drawing.
Oh, okay.
And the bendable being skewered like Vlad the Impaler is on the right there, little bitty figure.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was filming his area, much to his chagrin. So,
and actually, the bendable ones were actually the first ones I got from Trendmasters. I got all four of them. It was Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla. Like that was my first four I ever got.
Cool. I know the Godzilla. Fred did the Godzilla. I think the other bendables might have been Hong Kong guys, but I know Fred did Godzilla. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
What about these?
That is another shot of Ray's walker, I think, on the left.
Okay.
He's holding it up with a piece of Sculpey, so the tail doesn't fall off.
Yeah.
And all those figures we had in the background, those were ones that Toho sent us for reference.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering if, because that looks like the Power Walk or something, the Bandai Godzilla.
It was a tall one. I think Ray's Iguana used to park on it a lot. It was tall. And the right one is that's a three-headed duck. That's how it started. That I did because they wanted us to look like we were sculpting more than further along than we were, and I mocked that up in the morning.
Wow.
Because they had some tours coming through, and they said, we want you guys to look like you're further along than you were. So I mocked that up in the morning. I mocked up the Rodan armature, and I'll be damned if we didn't go ahead and use them when they left. So
it almost looks like the Hydra from
it's Ghidra.
Yeah, but from the Harryhausen.
Harryhausen, yeah.
Oh, yeah, a little bit. If he had like 7 heads and
a
little chaotic movement.
And I must correct myself, otherwise the fans will crucify me. It actually looks like the 91 Big Bandai behind the Power Walk on the left. Right, Eric?
On the left?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had several, and they were from all different years and looks, and so we kind of just went with our own. I believe they wanted us to look like Ray's Bank. That was supposed to be our style guide, and they would try to push that, but you know us, we just kind of, I'm doing my own Godzilla, and I hope they like it.
What they know, what they don't know won't hurt them.
What they don't know. It looks like Godzilla, so.
Hey, that's awesome.
What cracked me up is that big Godzilla they sent as reference. The guys in the shop used to put like cigarettes in his mouth or dump hats on his head. Every time I would go to visit them in the shop, they'd always have him in a pose or something.
That was the remote control one. That guy was huge.
Yeah.
He was made for cigarettes. Okay. That shot there is Ray's walker again, and you can see I've started the Rodan back there.
Yeah.
They actually kept the wings, but they trashed the body because it was just really fast. And that's my area down there on the right, complete with Vampy poster. The Godzilla, we had CEO Russell would bring in Godzilla posters, and he'd hang those up. And that one, I'm not sure which one that is, but I actually based Ghidra off one of those posters that was hanging up in my room.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure which poster. Well, I designed him first off a Walker, and he didn't like it, and then I based it off the poster, and that was it. So
fascinating. Man, what a time! What a time!
It was just a blur, really. I mean, I know it seems like we had a lot of time to prepare, but this was just a blur.
Yeah.
I tell you, we were talking off screen about the flair or that X factor, that proverbial it that Trendmasters has, and it is something that I think, and maybe it's because I'm older, I don't know, but I do think that a lot of the newer toys are missing something, and I feel like Trendmasters was able to just figure it out, whatever that it is. And I wonder, after hearing your story about you using kind of like the posters and stuff that Toho sent you or your boss was able to pick up, so you were able to see what they looked like in the specific film, but in the poster maybe they're a little bit more stylized, or they're a little bit I can't think of the right word, a little bit more extreme or exaggerated in some aspects depending on the poster. Maybe that's why Trendmasters was able to or speak so much to me, is because it obviously was able to take something as an official picture, but also kind of give it your own, for lack of a better word, interpretation.
Well, like I said, it was before the internet, so a lot of it was in your head. So we were picking out the cool things that we knew and saw. Like if we saw like those posters and things, and this was our take on it. It wasn't so much style guide and here's a picture of it on the internet.
Right.
So a lot of that came from me, Fred, Ray, and in design, several guys that were just really talented and could come up with stuff off the top of their head.
Right.
That made its way into the product, I would say.
Right. And honestly, for especially the Godzilla Wars line, you guys were actually making things as kind of like the movies were coming out in a little, in some aspects, or they had just kind of come out maybe a year or two prior. So there really wasn't a lot of books or even material that you could go to a bookstore or whatever, like Batra, Space Godzilla, the Heisei Mechagodzilla, Biollante,
Right.
Mogera, pretty much all the Heisei monsters, the 90s Godzilla films, you guys were pretty much just kind of relying on the posters and stuff, it sounds like.
Posters or a few pictures.
Yeah.
And for text, I think I had I think it was a Rowan's Encyclopedia of Monsters. And that is where they grabbed most of their facts from. I think Toho would throw in a few things, but most of it came from in-house.
Wow.
Everything we could dig up.
Well, you guys knocked it out of the park, considering what you had to work with. That's for sure.
And the time we had. I'll give it that.
And the time you had, yes.
I really will say, I really do think the difference is that the guys that all worked on these were true Godzilla fans. They love Godzilla. And they put their heart and soul in it. It's just not something that's 3D modeled in a computer and printed out later. They really put a lot into it. Even though they didn't have a lot of time, they wanted them to look good.
And
it's almost like a great analogy, too, for the Godzilla films today. Back in the day, they were made with practical effects, miniatures. People actually sculpted and made these sets, the suits, the rubber suits for every monster. Every tooth, every scale, every building, every window was done by hand. Now, everything is computer generated. No disrespect to anybody that does it on the computer. So much more talented than I could ever be.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I almost kind of look at it as like you guys are that old school. Hey, we created these things with my hands, and
Right.
it
was old school, and it was limited knowledge of really how things were made.
Yeah.
We made them our way. And like you were talking about the movies, one of my favorite shots is still the first Godzilla movie, where Godzilla's walking in the city, and they superimpose him amongst the buildings. It's all in black and white. It's etchy, and it's great.
Yeah.
That's my favorite shot ever.
And honestly, like, you know, we're talking about, you know, what kind of made Trendmasters better than what we, you know, have nowadays. And honestly, I think you've kind of touched on it, Steph, where basically, I mean, the people working on the stuff it was a passion project. They put a lot of love into this stuff, and obviously it transcended, you know, into the figures and to fans and stuff like that, because I mean, this stuff was just sought after. And obviously we've talked about a little bit till, you know, even nowadays, like, it's still sought after. And it's just, you know, like we were just discussing, like, you know, you guys didn't have a lot of references to go off of, just like what they did back in the day in the Showa era. So really, you guys use your imagination and what you thought was cool and what people would be drawn to. So really, you had the same mindset and the same kind of materials as what they did back in the Showa era. And that's, I mean, that's
well, thank
a
you.
lot of just credit for you guys. Like, that's amazing.
That does mean a lot, because we wanted to do it. That's why we stayed overnight, you know, a lot of the time, 3-4 nights a week for a month straight, because we wanted them to look as good as we can get them when it was just hurry, you know, crank them out, hurry and get them done. And we wanted them to look, because we knew there'd be other Godzilla fans checking these out, and we wanted to be true to our own job. And that we put a lot into them to make them look as Godzilla-y as we could.
Well, you definitely succeeded.
I'm going to create that. Godzilla-y.
Godzilla.
As Godzilla as I could go. That's gospel from the left. No, I'm just kidding.
Turkey dinner.
Well, see, that's what I mean. It was hard to do because that body there, we couldn't make them in one piece. They had to be done in pieces. So they would say the legs are going to shrink 8%. So do them separate. The heads are going to be different, molded different. So do those separate. When I got that torso done, that would go off in the mold, and I had to do the legs without looking at the body.
Oh, wow.
So the fact that Ghidra even came out any kind of coherent is a miracle to me. You know?
Like a Frankenstein, basically putting pieces together, just hoping they all fit.
I didn't see it all together until it was in resin, and we had the pieces, and we're putting it together, and I'm like, those legs are way too small. But we had speakers to deal with. We had the box ties to deal with, and they all had to be done in separate pieces. And so half the time, they weren't even next to each other. So
yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's the first Ghidra head on the right that I did, and Russell rejected that one, and because he was based on that little Scholastic Walker in the background there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that one in the background looks like a Bandai.
And I thought they would go for that because that would be easier to pull out of the mold with his horns like that. They'd be a little smoother. So when I did them off the poster, I thought there's no way they're going to approve this because his horns are like fanned out. And of course, he said, "Yeah, that's it." So I'll give him that one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll give him that one. And those are Mecha Ghidra's wings done by Tony Parker. Besides the 3 sculptors, he was the only one that was assisting on like the styrene mechanical kind of stuff. And that's his shot of the Ghidra wings.
Cool.
Yep. I thought
what's that red residue? What is that? Just from like the mold?
It is like what would you call that? Milliputty or something that would fill up cracks. It was a red. Okay. It's kind of like milliputty, like for modelers, but I think in his case it was red. And he was using it to fill the cracks up, and then he would sand over it.
Okay.
And that was probably taken at 10 at night. That is Fred's Rodan.
Okay.
That's when you're dealing with changes. See, he's adding Sculpey under the resin. These things would change sometimes. We'd get them done, and somebody would come back, "Hey, here's a picture. I like this. Do it like this." And we'd be like, "Oh, come on, it's done," you know? or it would improve, or it would get bigger, or it would get smaller. And that is Fred enhancing probably changes from the product manager onto a resin piece.
Okay.
For a tooling sample. And that guy on the right, that is Ray's Walker again, I believe, when it was in its early monstrosity. Yeah, that's it. That's on his desk.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a time. You're right. I wouldn't want to do it again though. And that's all the molds on the left from the first Godzilla line, and probably a few other things in there. But you can see how much we created in probably 3 weeks right there.
Wow.
That would go now. Mike Klepp, he was the guy that did all the molding and the casting. And when we had free time, we'd go back and help him sometimes. But those went to, what was it, second floor?
Yeah, I think so.
Second floor, and then where they had no heat or air conditioning, and they just went to hell. I mean, you could pick them up, they just fall apart. So I kept the Micro Godzilla for myself because I don't know, I just wanted it, and it's still producing castings to this day.
I can't believe that mold still survives. For as old as it is, it's unreal.
And those are legs in the mold, and you can see the pour spout. They pour them from the bottom. Those are one-piece molds there. And those would be lying around in buckets. Mike would be an air bubble then, and instead of fixing it, he just cast another one. So we had pieces all over, and we'd chop them up for filler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, like, just how in some ways barbaric, but like in a good way. Not like, I don't mean that like derisively or anything. Like, I mean it as in like how just like fly by the seat of your pants kind of it seemed. And what I would give to like shadow you for a day, 30 years ago or something. Like,
it was nuts. It was nuts. And past 5:30, we'd shake the floor with the stereo. We'd stay up all night. The whole place was just loud. The floor would move. I don't know how Raids Iguana didn't go insane, but it was crazy.
I just love that, like, to us, like us seeing this, fans and just, toy collectors, like, to us, this is amazing. We're like, holy crap, those are legs from like the skull. But then you're just like, oh yeah, they're just in buckets. We just chop them up. It's whatever, It's like, oh my God.
You're like, we chopped them up and used them as filler. And I'm like, what? Those are so cool.
If they had a bubble on them, instead of fixing them, Mike would just pour another one. So
yeah,
and we'd have to do tons of casting.
Oh yeah, I bet. I just love it. I just different perspectives on it and everything. It's so unique.
We had to get it done.
Yep.
Move on. Oh, that's what the Godzilla in the New York playset. That was my first figure on the left.
Oh.
I did it at Ridge Mill, and it was a Zuka missile blaster when I sculpted it, and then that turned into a water shooter, and then it finally became the missile blaster in the New York playset.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But that's how it started out. And then the playset, his wrists are like, I don't know what they did to his wrists, but that's how it started out.
And that's actually a great set that you guys did, the New York.
Mm-hmm.
The New York one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure who worked on that. Probably mostly packaging, and maybe Joe worked on that. But that's where the figure went. And on the right, that is a finished. Those are probably for the photo shoots, the catalog shoots, or the commercial.
Are those resin, or are those like actual, just unpainted plastic figures?
No, they're resin, and if you can see, we blended the joints with Sculpey, added on to them so they'd be one piece. But Ghidra was done so fast, we didn't have time to mold him, so we shipped him straight off to Hong Kong, and then we got molds back and then made those. Wow. And Mecha Ghidra, if you look at the bottom of the base of Mecha Ghidra, there's a hub there. Mm-hmm. Because it was so fast, I didn't have time to do his neck. So I cut the Bondi one up and just glued it onto his head and sent it off. and they were supposed to like use the hub, for the hub, the pivot hub.
Yeah.
They put another hub underneath that one. And if you look on that figure, it's sitting on top of the body. They knew it was a hub. I don't know. They probably screwed up. But that's
oh my goodness.
But they're all just done up probably before we painted them. I'm probably getting shots of them because Steve was too busy to take photos of them. So.
But that's so awesome. Seeing that final like product like right there. Like that's
Yeah.
amazing to me. It really
That's
is.
the first time we've seen them together right there when I put those together.
What did you feel when you first saw them like that? Like,
I was upset about Ghidra because I thought his legs should have been bigger, but I get it.
the perfectionist in you.
Like this big. And that still bugs me a little to this day, but it's a lot in a short amount of time. It's a lot of pieces in a short amount of time. So I'm glad we pulled it off. The wings are huge on Mecha Godzilla. Mecha Ghidra. God, it's crazy. But I did do the tail on Godzilla. That's my Scholastic Walker tail, and Ray did the rest of that.
I just love, even now, the perfectionist in you sees these photos and you're just like, oh, I hate that. I hate that.
It drives me nuts looking at the proportion of them. But dude, they were all in. I didn't get to work on it as a one-piece thing.
Yeah,
I knew nobody would understand that, but there he is.
No, that actually makes sense though, and I'm glad that was brought up, because that is something you hear in the collecting community, like, oh yeah, like some of the proportions are off or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I don't care. And Eric and I are like looking at this stuff like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing, and it is funny to hear you be like, oh no, that sucks.
The legs are way too short. The box is like that, and he had to loom over the box, and he had to have a 27, 29 millimeter speaker in his chest, plus batteries. So you had to make his chest bigger than the feet. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Knowing that he had to do that, where the one piece is in the mold, and then I think it's amazing it came together at all.
They came together. But it was a fast.
Yeah, it looks like it's all just done in just one big piece. I mean, that's credit to your ability. I mean, obviously, because it just looks like, boom, it was all one, and there you go. It doesn't look like you had to do this piece and this piece, and then hopefully it fits.
Hopefully it fits.
Yep.
Or make it fit. Like the Godzilla hatchling. I had to shove it didn't fit in the egg when I got him done, but I had to chop his leg off and redo that. So.
The hatchling.
Yeah, background as cool as you guys. That's pretty cool.
You're gonna find, as the conversation continues, that no matter what you bring up from Trendmasters, I'm going to say, "Oh, that's my favorite thing you." Oh no, that's my favorite thing you did. Oh, that's my favorite thing you did, because I love it all. I really do.
Well, thank you.
So, with some of the unreleased lines, we kind of touched base on Doom Island and Godzilla the Animated Series. What were the rosters that were planned for those lines particularly? Like, who was supposed to be coming out, like in the Doom Island and then the animated series first?
The Doom Island, wasn't that Gamera's era, like Gamera stuff?
No, Doom Island was Godzilla. Like it had like the dinosaurs in the sets.
Okay.
And Destroya.
I think it was going to be Destroya, like the Kumunga. And then like the Battle Up Anguirus was in there.
I
am thinking of something else. This was 30 something years ago. I know they were going to do the Power Up Kumunga because I did ABCs on that, as far as how it grips on, how that little thing grips onto his body. I think Lorenzo drew him up. Destroyer was in there. Now that you mention him, I forgot all about him. There's
I think you guys were going to do like the Mega Mutation line or something like that.
Yeah, the chest opened up. There was a Godzilla. There was There was 6-inch and 10-inch versions of those. I don't even see a lot of things. We don't even know if they made or not. I mean, we were designers. When they leave your desk, you might know if they got made. You might not. I don't know if they made the Mega Mutations or not.
I don't think they ever got made.
And I would say, and a lot of times I would say something like, no, those never got made because we never saw them. And then somebody will show me a picture. Well, here it is, and I'm like, that's new to me. But I to Europe or something like that, or Bluebird would put it out. Or
I think the Mega Mutations only made it like early production, but I don't ever think they got released. I don't think anyone bought them.
I have first shots, and I think I've got some painted, so I thought they at least got tooled. So
but I don't think anyone bought them. I don't think they
think
were
so.
sold in stores.
I know some of the Doom Island stuff apparently did get produced and then like sent to some warehouse or something in Thailand, I believe.
That's what
So-
that's what we heard too.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what they were doing with that line is it was a special, like that's when the internet first started, and they were doing like this internet promotion thing to where you could order them and get, order them online and get
Makes
them.
sense.
And we had some in our warehouse in St. Louis, but yeah, they shipped the other ones off, like you said. That's the rumor we heard too, to like Thailand or Hong Kong or I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many things we worked on. We really don't know if they got made half the time or not.
Yeah.
And they come back after the show and say, "Hey, this is how it went." We were busy working on something else. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
So we are closing in on an hour here. I just have one last. We honestly have so many more questions that we could ask. We would love to have you guys back for a part 2 if you're interested in a few weeks or months or whatever. It's been an absolute blast. I do have one last kind of sentimental question, and we've talked about this or hinted throughout the show that the nostalgia and just the feels and Trendmasters, all of its lines, not just Godzilla, but Iron Giant and Independence Day and so Gamera. It was such a huge part in so many people's childhoods. Now looking back on it 30 years later, how do you feel knowing that you guys, both of you, had such a huge part in bringing such happy moments to so many kids?
you go first.
Oh, I get to go first. Okay. I mean, I wasn't a designer in that. I was just, like I said, like I used to say, I'll sweep floors, I'll do whatever. I just wanted to work there. And I'll tell you, the years that I worked there, it was the best job I know in my life ever have. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun, not just because, just the people you work with. It was so many just, fun. And these people I still keep in touch with. Like there's not many jobs that, 30 years later you still talk to or keep in touch with. Like there are so many Trendmaster people that I still to this day we talk to, and like if I talk to them, it's just like I saw them yesterday. So, and I mean, and like I said, just to have any part, and it is so neat. Like we will run into people, and when they find out Jeff worked on products, they're like, "Oh my God!" We just over the weekend he did his first show for his Etsy shop, and this guy came up because he had a couple of the Godzilla things out on the table, and this one guy just kept saying, thank you so much," and it just blows you away to see how much it did mean to people, and that it, and you just feel so humbled and so like, wow, and it is it's so neat to just even be a little part of that history. Yep. It's very cool.
It does. And I was just a designer, one of many really talented people that were there. Mm-hmm. And but to have people come up to you 30 something years later and say, thank you so much for making this a part of your childhood is not something I thought I would hear while at the time just working there. It's pretty amazing, think that you were a part of something that's going to be bigger than yourselves. So
true. Well, I
have to off to the rest of them, because when I think of Trendmasters, I think of the guys that worked there. That did all the designs and the sculpting.
That is one thing, and we were incredibly lucky because
there were a lot of good people there.
So many super talented people on everything, like in packaging and everything. Like there were so many talented people. It's
come back. We can name and harass each one of them.
I love it. It sounds like you guys just had. It sounds like it was a grind, and that it was definitely fly by the seat of your pants. But it sounds like it was the best. It sounds like you had great coworkers. I mean, you got to work with your wife. I mean, that's or girlfriend at the time, right? But now wife. That's great. It's honestly, it sounds
the year that I got hired is the year that we were getting married. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got hired right, like maybe a month before we got married, and they actually threw us a shower at work.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Did you guys wear the Godzilla birthday hats, or the clowns, or whatever?
No.
I almost got
maybe
told on Halloween though, because they always had these huge Halloween parties because they did a pretty big Halloween line, and I got a lot of the employees at Trendmasters to dress up like Jeff. He was not happy with me.
That was fun. But yeah.
That's great. Jeff, Stephanie, thank you guys so much for coming on. Before we leave, could you please tell everybody about your Etsy store? Because I think there's going to be quite a few people that are interested in seeing what you have available there. So, Eric,
yeah, I do have available the. There's two of them. There's the hatchling, which is like I said, pulled from the original mold, which is still going. I'll do those as long as it's still going. That's from the original one I sculpted in '94. And then there's the Doom Island on the right. Now, I had a prototype first shot of that, and I took him apart, molded him, and I made castings for it of one of 12 maybe existing. So now I'm trying to, if anybody is interested in those, there's the little link down there. And I have the pins for sale as well. When Trendmasters collapsed, I grabbed a bunch of those. They were New York promo pins.
He's holding it up.
Hey, there you go.
Pin.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the pins they handed out at Toy Fair.
So if anyone is interested in that, please visit and we'll see what we can do there.
So check out 1031 Studios on Etsy, right?
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Guys, thank you guys again so much. Honestly, we have so much more I feel like we wanted to talk about. So if you guys are willing,
we'll do it again.
We would love that. Honestly, we would love that. We have so much more to talk about. And Eric, anything you want to say real quick before I wrap us up?
Honestly, I mean, there's so much I could say, but honestly, I mean, the best thing to say is honestly, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, I mean, we've talked about this like in our chats and our streams and stuff like that, where when we grew up, there was no Godzilla stuff around. It was what we call like the dark ages. And when Trendmasters came out, like it was a ray of sunshine for a lot of us kids. And like I stated earlier in the stream, like it was surreal to see that stuff in my local Kmart. And I was like, holy crap, like this stuff is real. Like, oh my God, I can actually purchase Godzilla stuff. And I was just over the moon. And yeah, I can't say enough for what you guys did with Trendmasters as a whole. I mean, you sounded like you guys were a family, and it showed the love that you guys did with these figures and these products that we were just so happy that you guys brought this to kids, living rooms and bathrooms and playgrounds and wherever we, brought these things and stuff like that. Just a big thank you, especially from the big kid in me. Like, I just appreciate what you guys did.
Well, thank you. Like I say, we were just one of many though, as far as design, but we're glad we could.
Yeah.
Come on. You had the Imperial guy. Come on.
The alligator.
The alligator. Ain't that the truth? All right, that'll do it for us today, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in live for our discussion. We will do a part 2. They agreed to it. It's contractually bound. You heard them agree to it.
We can bore you for hours.
Right. Thank you guys again so much. And to everybody, make sure you subscribe. More interviews coming. See you guys next time. Take care.
Bye, guys.